Hey there, welcome to the channel. I'm Gianna with Purl Together. In this week's short technique video, I want to show you how I prefer to begin my toe-up socks by using the Turkish Cast On. In a previous toe-up socks video, I've used the Judy's Magic Cast On, and that's totally fine and it works just great. However, I find the Turkish Cast On to be a little bit easier. Actually, a lot easier. So we're going to be updating the customizable toe-up sock series. That's coming, but first I want to do a video specifically about the Turkish Cast On. Before I get started though, I want to give a hearty thank you to two of our new patrons, Betty and Carola. Thank you so much for joining us over on patreon.com. If you want to learn how you can become a new patron, head over to patreon.com/Purl Together, and you can see what I'm offering for your small monthly pledge. All right, so let's get started. All right, to get started with the Turkish Cast On, we're simply going to make a slip knot in the end of our working yarn here. So just a regular slip knot. And then I'm going to put that on my needle. So this is super straightforward. Okay, now I'm going to put the two ends of my needle together. Now I prefer magic loop, so that's what I'll be demonstrating with. You could do this with two circulars, or you could even do it with DPNs, although it's not as easy. So I have the slip knot here on my top needle, and I'm going to turn my needles so that the points are to the left. Okay, I'm going to kind of just hold this tail out of the way, and then with the working yarn coming off the back, I'm just going to wrap 14 times. So you want to wrap half the number of total stitches that you'd like to cast on. So I'm going to cast on a total of 28 because I'll have 14 on each needle. And this is what I'm doing in conjunction with the rounded seam-free toe-up method that I have a link for in the video description if you're interested in following along with that. So I'm just going to wrap once, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. 13, 14. Okay, so that's 14 wraps, not counting the slip knot. I'm going to double check that. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So that's 14 with the working yarn coming straight down. Now what I want to do is turn the whole thing 180 degrees. Okay, so turn the whole thing so that your working yarn is coming straight up and the tips are to the right. Now what I'm going to do is pull through. I'm going to pull through my bottom needle because this is going to become my magic loop working needle, and I'm going to curl that around. And I'm going to just carry on holding this. Now if you're a continental knitter, leave the working yarn under your left hand. But since I'm not, I'm an English knitter, I'm going to have my working yarn here in my right hand. But I'm keeping this up because I need this still to be wrapped around the bottom. So I'm going to go into this first wrap, just like I'm just knitting right into that, and I'm just going to wrap. It feels a little bit awkward initially, but you'll see what's going to happen. I'm just going to knit into this all the way down 14 into those 14 loops. That's all I'm going to do here. And making sure that the loop that's on the left side doesn't accidentally slip off that needle tip. Okay, so we're just going to knit 14 stitches all the way down. Okay, so in 14, now that does not include the slip knot that's hanging out now on this cable down here. So that's 14 stitches, not including the slip knot. So just leave that be for a moment. We're going to hang on to this and work the bottom needle back through. Okay, so go ahead and pull the cable for the bottom needle. Now be careful you don't pull the top one. Okay, so now we've got both of our needles here. I'm going to go ahead and pull this top one through a little bit to even things up, and I'm going to rotate it around again to the right, pull through the bottom needle, so that's now our working needle. Okay, now remember, we don't need the slip knot. So I'm going to go ahead and let that drop off. Okay, you can go ahead and let that drop off, and then we're just going to knit back our 14 stitches. Try not to knit with the tail. Make sure that your working yarn is in the back, and knit back across those 14 stitches. And now you will have gotten your foundation started for the toe-up sock. or whatever else you might be knitting that requires the Turkish cast on. So it really is much more simple than Judy's Magic Cast On, in my opinion, but it does create that same seamless toe. Okay, now I'm going to pull through my cable along the bottom and make sure I've counted 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Okay, what I'd like to do now is go ahead and knit, turn 180 degrees, and knit back across both needles one more time so that you have a good foundation started. You have the beginning of your little toe, and then I'll show you what that looks like, and then you can go ahead with whatever pattern and whatever type of toe you've chosen. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I like to use Lynn Ashton's rounded seam-free toe, or seam-free rounded toe. I forget the title of it, but the link is down below in the video description, and you can download that PDF. And I like that because it's more of a rounded toe than a wedge toe, and I prefer that, I prefer that more rounded look rather than kind of the top of a trapezoid or a wedge. So I've really used that almost exclusively. All right, I've knitted back across those needles a couple more times, and now we have actually 4 rows done, if you count that we've knitted. And you can see that that's pretty well seamless. Like, you can't tell where we began. So that's the whole idea. So now you can carry on with whatever kind of toe you prefer or whatever pattern that you prefer, because your little baby toe has begun. I hope you found that video helpful. If so, please hit that like, thumbs up button, consider subscribing, and if you can, share with your friends and become a patron. Feel free to join the groups over on Facebook and Ravelry, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.